Hi there, I'm Scott, and this is GreatScott Knitting. Happy Passover 2022, Chag Pesach Sameach. Today was day 3 in the Omer, and it is the 4th day of Passover. So welcome in. So over the past couple days, we've talked a little bit about choices that we make and being able to focus on the things that we can do and not the things we can't. We've talked a little about having a vision for your life, knowing where you're headed, and what you want to make of yourself. And that these are particularly key ways to move yourself from a mindset of being enslaved to something to being free. Similar to the Egyptian or the Jewish people leaving Egypt, leaving slavery, but not necessarily leaving or gaining their freedom immediately. That it really took a long time for them to see themselves as a free people and to really live their lives in a free way. Because I don't think they practiced some of these ideas. The next idea around reaching freedom is, taking that vision that you have for yourself and putting it in practice, having the integrity and the fortitude to execute on the plan that you put in place for your life. That's a key thing, I think, to be able to do. And you have to have consistent execution over time on your vision. Now, your vision helps define what's important to you, right? And that gives you that direction that you want to go in. The idea of that you put first things first as opposed to unimportant things first. And those first things come directly out of that vision you have for your life. So I want to kind of lean into that concept of focusing on things that are important to you. And let me do it in this way. We'll start here. This is called the time management matrix. It basically looks at your time and the things that you do within your time as either important or under the banners of importance and urgency. So if something is important and urgent, we call that like quadrant 1, firefighting. That's where you have your crises, emergencies, the firefighting that you do at work. It's pressing problems and deadline-driven projects. Those things that you have to do. They're important, but they're also urgent. Now, the quadrant right below that, quadrant 3, the quadrant of distraction. It's urgent, but it's not important. That urgency makes it seem important, but it's often just interruptions. Other people's priorities, not yours. Junk mail, junk emails, spam, just stupid stuff that pops up on your phone feed that the bell rang and it buzzed, but it wasn't important. But it took your time. It distracted you. Quadrant 4 is neither important nor urgent. These are time wasters. It's when you spend an entire weekend binge watching something on Netflix, or spending 48 hours playing a needless, mindless video game. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoy binge watching a show, especially if I can do it with a friend or my spouse. But to do it in place of anything else and everything else, it really feels like a time waster. It really feels like a waste of time, if you will. And that's where we move into quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is called quality time, or the quadrant of effectiveness. It's important, but not urgent. There's nothing pressing on us to do these things. And this is usually where we spend time doing prevention, planning, improvement of ourselves, relationship building, and learning new things, recognizing opportunities, having recreation, spending time with important people, learning new and important things. I mean, no one's telling us to do it, and so we often don't. This is often where we put exercise, eating right, taking walks in nature. It's important. It helps us. But we don't have anyone saying, you need to go do this. There's nothing pressing on us. But it's really where if we focused our time here, we could reduce the time we spend in quadrant 1 putting out fires and dealing with crises and emergencies, because we'll have planned and prevented them. And quadrant 3 we can really say no to. Why? Because they're not important. We have a bigger yes burning inside, and that bigger yes is the vision we have for our life. That's kind of the time matrix. And if we really focus in on quadrant 2 activities, those things that make us effective, that make life worth living, we really are better off. We spend more time working on living our vision. That's what's important. Another way to then take this concept of what's important, now that we really defined what that looks like, that it's not just urgent stuff, we can then schedule it. I find that if you don't schedule things, you often don't do them. Especially, if they're those quadrant 2 things that no one's telling you need to do, you need to tell yourself. Well, if you put it on your schedule, you're more likely to do it. Like having this podcast. I've started putting it on my schedule. Think of it kind of like this. Think of like you have a jar. That jar represents your life, or the time you have in a week. Rocks, big rocks especially, represent your priorities, the important things in life. Those things that lend and move you towards living your vision. Pebbles and sand can represent things that are urgent, but maybe not that important. And sand is just distractions, things that aren't important and not urgent. There's your 4 quadrants for you. Well, at least 3 of them. What we normally do is our life gets filled up with the sand and the pebbles, those not important things or those urgencies that come at us. Some of them are important, but a lot of them aren't. And then we try to stack the important stuff on top of it. And some of it we get to, but some of it doesn't make it into our day or our week. And so they just don't happen. But here, if we scheduled our big rocks, those most important things in our life, like diet, exercise, vacation, time with a friend, and we scheduled those into our day first, into our week first, and then let the other stuff kind of fill in the crevices and around about those little urgent things that come up, then we know we've gotten all the good stuff done. And, if we don't get to some of the other stuff, it's not that big a deal because it's not important. So if we do those kinds of things, put them in our schedule, and then really do them, it's amazing how much more productive you feel, how much more in charge of yourself you feel. It's really a way to express your own personal independence, your own personal freedom. And then if you take a little bit of time out of your week, at the beginning of every week, and maybe a little time out of every day to plan weekly and act daily, it could go something like this. You start by reviewing your mission and goals. What's important to you? And then out of that, you can choose what your big rocks for the week. And you can ask yourself the question, what is the most important thing I can do this week that would further my mission and goals? Then schedule it. Put it on your calendar. And then every day, check for your appointments. What have you scheduled? Review those big rocks. Make a task list of things that you need to do that are going to accomplish those big rocks. And then prioritize the things that are on the list. What's important? What's not? What contributes to the goals and mission and vision that you have for yourself? And if it doesn't, it's okay. Get to it tomorrow. Or not. I really have found that doing these types of things works. You are able to do more of those things that you think are important, that contribute to a more independent life, a more free life, because you're doing things that you like and things that are important. Like knitting. Knitting's important, and sometimes I even schedule it. It's not just one of those things that fills in around the cracks. It's really that important to me. Just like dyeing. Dyeing yarn is something I schedule. I don't just fit it in around the cracks. It's that important for me. So for me, I have been knitting, and I've gotten a little bit further. I've actually gotten started on the mosaic pattern. I'm not a long ways yet, but it's coming. It's coming along. Let me see if I can kind of show it to you. Yeah, you get a sense of it. I can really start to kind of feel how going up that needle size has been helpful in keeping that gauge for this section. I am really interested in seeing it more as I finish this first repeat and getting into more of it. But I really like how it is turning out. It's really quite nice. So I have gotten that far. I know it doesn't seem like a long ways, but when you only have a couple of hours in the day to do it, and you're trying to podcast at the same time, I'll get a little bit further this evening, and you'll be able to see some of that progress tomorrow. So, hey, thanks for hanging out. I hope that you're liking some of these insights that I have that, quite frankly, I teach this stuff during the day as well. So this is just an extension of that. But I really do believe it, too. I've seen it work. It works for me. That these three things that I've talked about so far really make up a private victory, sort of a building of character, taking responsibility for yourself, having a vision for your life, and then executing on that vision kind of creates that inner character of trust. You trust in yourself, and you become trustworthy with other people. So try them out, see how they work for you. And we'll see where the rest of the week goes for us. So have a wonderful evening, a wonderful day. And, it's Tuesday. So may you have peace in your home and the fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Bye.